Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's a couple minutes after, and so why don't we go ahead and get started? My name is John Glantz. I lead the transformation consulting and outsourcing practices here at InflowCX, and I'm joined by Dan Deneen, who's our Senior Director of Solution Engineering at Inflow. Thank you for attending our webinar, Redefining Customer Experience and the Power of AI and Quality Management. We just a quick promotion on some upcoming webinars. We have a fireside chat on navigating outsourcing partnerships with one of our partners on April 9th. We have another fireside chat on modernizing the member experience in credit unions. And then on April 25th, decoding IVR design, a guide to creating seamless call experiences. So please go ahead and sign up for those. I think it's all going to be really interesting. So just a quick run through the agenda, what we're going to talk about today. We'll have a brief commercial about InflowCX, and then we'll actually get into the content of the webinar. And then, of course, any questions. If you do have a question during the webinar, don't just pop it in the chat, and we'll actually just do it. We'll just try to answer that question during the webinar as opposed to doing it at the end, or we'll do it at the end as well. So that being said, So InflowCX helps organizations evaluate, deploy, and optimize their customer engagement technology and strategy. And we do that by providing a vendor-neutral approach to CX technology evaluation, outsourcing and labor strategies, and operational effectiveness. So we basically help our customers make data-driven decisions using financial modeling and business case modeling, and it's aligned to their business requirements and their business requirements. We have deep expertise across the entire CX ecosystem, including CCaaS technology, but AI, a whole suite of customer experience technologies, WFO, WEM, and BPO. And then we also have a high-touch implementation and managed services practice that it basically delivers fantastic customer satisfaction with an average CSAT of 99.6%. So, on the right, you'll see kind of our credentials. We've done an awful lot of work in this space that we're very proud of. This is just a little bit of a slide that shows just a sample of some of the people that we've done work with across all the different things that we do at InflowCX. So leading companies across multiple verticals and industries. So we have deep expertise across all the different verticals out there. So, and then lastly, you can't work in the space without partnering with some fantastic technology partners. And you can see we work with the leading suppliers across the whole ecosystem. From on the CCaaS side, Genesys and Five9, NICE-CXone, Zoom, RingCentral, and then across the here today to talk a little bit about that upper right-hand quadrant, which is the quality and analytics quadrant. We're very proud of the partners we work with here today, but we're not really here to talk about specific partners as much as we are to really talk about how we're seeing clients use this technology and then kind of the evolution that's happening in that space. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dan Deneen, and he'll kind of get us kicked off and started.
Okay, thanks, John. As he said, I'm Dan Deneen. I manage the solution engineering team here at Inflow. I've worked in the contact center industry for my entire career. Managed IT infrastructure and telecom network, ACD, and other contact center equipment and teams supporting all those throughout my career at some large BPOs and then in some contact center consulting companies. So I'm going to provide a brief history of the progress of quality management and automation over the years. And then John's going to walk through how the technology advancements are allowing for new applications of quality management that provide greater agent and business insights. So he and I have worked in the contact center space, like I said, over 30 years, seen a lot of changes in how contact centers perform different services. And a lot of that has been driven by technology advancements over time. And that's certainly true with quality management. And so I thought we'd start with a little walk down memory lane. We were talking in our first recollection of quality management and call recording was back when contact centers used to use manual cassette recorders that were double jacked into the phone. And agents used to sit there, and when it was time to record, they would push the start record button. At least now the agents have a button on their computer that they can push to start and stop recording. But the likelihood of that happening 100% of the time is not very good. And then the cassettes were the recorded, message, and those would be passed on to supervisors or quality managers who would listen at 3 times speed for keywords like on an outbound call, was the sale completed, or to verify compliance statements were correctly read. So again, you can kind of guess what the accuracy of that was. Over time, improvements were made on the ECD systems that allowed for live agent monitoring. And then there's some enhancements there that made it easier to listen to a call. But again, the recording devices that were available that replaced the cassettes or manual recording systems were very expensive and weren't very widely deployed. So there was still a whole bunch of issues that were prevalent in this environment. Most actual observing of agent calls was done by live monitoring of agents using the agent observe capabilities on the phone system. This was very people intensive and time consuming, and a supervisor had to sit there and wait for a call. So if an agent was, in queue or waiting for calls, there was a lot of dead time there that just was wasted time. So in effect, 1 to 2% of calls maybe were listened to. And the recording required extensive hardware. You had to double tap on lines. And so companies didn't buy a lot of equipment to do that. They usually only recorded calls that had contractual requirements or some kind of compliance need. And supervisors spent a ton of time trying to find calls, and most coaching was based on the limited number of calls that they were able to listen to. So hopefully you got calls that were typical of the agent experience and not the one bad one that they got. And there really was very little quality review. I mean, you had some manual evaluation forms and things like that were used, but there's no formal reporting or summary of all those evaluations. And in the end, there was very little business insight that came out of this process. And you were just doing it because you had to for compliance reasons. So very manual, people intensive, and expensive. And what'd you get out of it? About 1 to 2% of the calls. So it was a huge advancement when we got to cloud contact centers. The biggest thing was that the cloud contact centers provided all the equipment, and the use of voice over IP technology allowed greatly enhanced and simplified contact center technologies. And one of the big advancements there was in quality management. It almost became table stakes for CCaaS providers to offer 100% call recording at an affordable price. So customers no longer had to purchase these expensive recording devices or limit themselves to only recording certain kinds of calls. And you can see now most call centers have 100% recording, and you should expect that. And with most of the calls being recorded now, the QM staff didn't have to spend time waiting and trying to find a call. They could readily listen to recorded calls at their leisure, and have calls done for an agent, 5 calls per agent per month or whatever the rules were, and they wouldn't have to go, listen to those and sit and wait for them to come in. There was also metadata associated with the recorded calls, so it became easier to search for calls and try to see trends or specific call types. And there was no more going to the cassette storage room and rumbling through shelves to find the correct tape. It was easy to go find a recording when you needed it. The QM process automation was added to, including evaluation forms, scheduling of agents, and there was much improved reporting on, that summarized those evaluations on the agents. So the job of the supervisor or QM person to do coaching was becoming easier. They could review the recorded calls and evaluations and have a meaningful session with an agent. But there were still issues with this. While more calls were recorded, you didn't really have more time to listen to them. So most contact centers still hovered in the less than 2% of calls actually reviewed. And compliance and agent behavior continued to be the primary reasons for recording. Improvements to coaching and having more information to do that began to progress because the calls were at least there. Still hard to get business insights when you're only looking at 2% of the calls. and the small sample sizes of the recordings. So in summary, the technology, while was greatly improved, we got 100% of the calls, but the QM processes were still pretty limited because it was extremely manually intensive. Which takes us to today. The introduction of AI into the quality management process has opened up a world of possibilities. So we've now entered a time where AI and further automations providing the opportunity to greatly enhance how we use the information that's been captured. While most of the QM before this was focused on voice calls, now we're getting voice and all the digital channels. So we have 100% recording in a lot of cases across every interaction that happens in the contact center. So not only are we able to record and view 100% of those interactions, we now can evaluate all or most of them for important insights. You couldn't do that in a manual manner with a person trying to do it. So these insights can drive changes to agent coaching and behavior, provide real-time agent assist information, and business insights to how customers have been interacting with the contact center. So really a much greater focus on the agent experience and the customer experience because you're seeing it across such a broader amount of interactions. So supervisors and QM people can now focus on addressing the interactions and the issues and opportunities that it's presenting. And with the enhanced data, they can see trends, and they get coaching suggestions from the AI tools and other important information based on holistic interaction data. So instead of guessing if the 1 to 2% of calls is listened to were indicative of the contact center, you now have 100% to do all the trending on. So the automation, categorization, recommendations, automated evaluations, and other improvements allow the contact center managers to have information at their fingertips that they never had before. And I think we're starting to see the improvements in contact center and what supervisors and managers are able to do in near real time. The other big change is the business insights that are being gained there lead to strategic decisions instead of reactive decisions. So you can be more proactive on how to improve the agent and customer experience. And we've seen interaction automation come out of these. So with all the information and the trends, you can group calls and see that perhaps there's a set of calls that can be automated through a chat bot or a voice bot. So in summary, the ability to have all the interaction on mass interactions all evaluated and scored and recommendations coming out of that provides a much easier way for a contact center manager to look at ways to improve the contact center. So that takes us to what are we seeing in the industry, and John's going to talk a little bit more now about how some of these advancements are enabling the new applications in the quality management space.
Thanks, Dan. So, we talked about, Dan, I think did a really nice job of kind of walking us through the journey to get to this point. I think, to kind of hit on that, what this new technology allows for is the ability to actually do more than just, evaluate a sample size of calls for either compliance or, high-level coaching insights. This actually becomes a very powerful source of business insights that can be used in a number of ways. I tell clients all the time that this is the most powerful information that you have and the most accurate source of information you have for a number of things, from obviously from customer experience, but also if you think about the way you build program interactions and you build offers and product for client. There's a wealth of information that's available through this in this data, right? And the technology and the AI capability allows you to sort that into meaningful insights. So, I look at this and we talk to clients about thinking about the application of the technology in reactive and proactive ways. And maybe there's probably smarter people out there that would maybe think of a better way to do that. But I look at reactive applications are like, you look at more accurate reporting of interaction insights. And if you think about call reason, and clients always tell me, well, I already know why people call me. We disposition every single call. The best way to find out why people are actually calling you is through studying this data. We had a client that we worked with that I suggested that we do analysis of a set of several thousand calls. And I talked to them. I said, one of the first analysis points we're going to give you is why people are calling. And they all thought that was, well, we already know why they're calling. I mean, when we actually went through and broke that out, we found out that there was a whole source of calls. Matter of fact, over a third of the calls they were getting, which were kind of basic blocking and tackling issues that had nothing to do with, they were service issues for sure, but they had nothing to do with the typical interaction. They were following up on kind of what I would call failed promises from a delivery or a pickup standpoint. They were products that had to be delivered and picked up from clients. And when you wrap that together with sentiment and effort, they were major drivers of negative sentiment from a client, because they were calling and saying, hey, I was supposed to get this yesterday. It hasn't come. This was supposed to be picked up from me 2 days ago, and we still haven't received it. Or I expected to get my bill and I haven't gotten my bill yet. And things like that, where they had no idea of what was going on with those calls, to the magnitude that it was, and how it was creating all this additional calls and interactions into their center, which is effectively tying up agents from the things that they should be doing. And that included within the sales lines, quite frankly. And so you'll find out why people are calling you. And you'll find out how those call types are interacting with their overall sentiment and customer effort. So so effort is really a measure of how hard it is for them to get issues resolved in your environment, right? And so those are important drivers to overall customer satisfaction. And then, handle time, it's a key driver of efficiency. So what are the things that are affecting handle time? And then how does that handle time, those handle time drivers, how do they affect what your customers think about you? And so you can then from there develop specific targeted training or intervention or process change or process simplification based on that data. And you can do it with a high degree of confidence. In another life, I managed a direct consumer marketing organization with a large call center attached to it. And we were constantly trying to figure out how to change our interaction processes and our training to deliver more outcomes. But we were only doing it with a subset of calls. Maybe we were listening to 50 or 100 calls across our whole team out of the thousands and thousands that we received. So it essentially made it a coin flip as to whether we were going to be right or not. And with this data, because you have the ability to analyze up to 100% of your calls, you get much more highly accurate data with a much higher degree of success when you use that data to make decisions. The other thing that I talk about is proactive applications. And so bear with me a little bit on this, because it's not necessarily a direct tie-in to kind of the quality management, but it is an AI function, and it has an impact on quality that we found. And that's the application of Agent Assist. So it's, which is basically automated interaction, guidance, and information sharing with agents in real time. This allows your agents to keep conversations, interactions on track. And what we've seen is a reduction in inaccurate information or the amount of time necessary to get information to share with customers or callers or people even on chat. And so it makes for a more effective and efficient communication. And it also, if you're worried about compliance, you're delivering accurate information to agents to share with customers. And then it also allows you to escalate during interactions if an agent needs, or there's been something that requires an immediate intervention. And you can use this, it can be used to identify opportunities for interaction automation. That's another application that's proactive, using the analysis to ID opportunities for interaction automation. So, we went back to sentiment and effort. What are the processes that are creating tension with your customers? And is there a way for us to provide a simpler path to that? And we've seen clients, we use that data as a diagnostic in our consulting engagements for that very reason, to identify where are the parts in the interaction that are driving problems for clients, so that we can go back and simplify those processes, whether it be automation on the front end, or what in the telephony technology, or in some cases it's improvements in web portals or self-servicing or things like that. And these are all things that you can do using this data, because it gives you insights on all of that. So what are the benefits for this? Yeah, the first benefits, I mean, this is, you know, there's a lot of different things you can do with this technology. You can do it one way, where as simple as automating your current QA process. And there's a huge amount of benefit to that, just because you can now, typically it's people and process that limit the amount of interactions you can monitor, like Dan spoke to that. And this way now you can literally create automation that focuses your team on only the highest risk issues. You can create escalations, or you know, where certain interactions are flagged because of problems, and then they can be reviewed by your quality staff. But it puts your quality staff, takes them away from just, you know, grinding through a few calls and scoring them, to actually, you know, bringing power in, so you can actually, you create a much finer net from a compliance standpoint, all the way out to have this be a key driver of your customer experience operation, to drive out, you know, to drive out key insights that are business impacting. So you get, you know, obvious operational and performance benefits. We've seen massive decreases in handle time based on the data that we've gotten through this analysis, and then ongoing maintenance and improvement. That's both, you know, driven real reductions in handle time, but also speeds the ramp to performance for new hires and things like that, because you're generating actionable insights that help with coaching, but also help for better process. Also, improvement of first call resolutions. So you identify those areas that are causing problems, causing repeat caller, and you can address them proactively. And then you know, the ability to consistently measure and report allows for a constant feedback and continuous improvement loop. That is, having been in the contact center world, as Dan mentioned, for a very long time, longer than I care to admit, this is a really important thing, because this is a continuous improvement channel. And in many cases, in the past, that continuous improvement was driven strictly by humans, right? And your best supervisors were the ones that understood things the best, and they were the ones that were able to move things. This provides much more actionable and accurate data for use in coaching, for use in performance management, for use in all those things that happen in the contact center, and can drive continuous improvement. And then lastly, you know, customer sentiment and customer experience measurement is a big thing. This really allows you to accurately measure this on an ongoing basis. This is absolutely superior to using customer surveys or other things that maybe only capture a subset of actual interaction experiences. And then the technology is continuing to improve and become more widely available. So it's you know, there are high quality solutions that are available through a number of different sources. And so that technology, as it continues to improve and evolve, delivers more and more insights and impacts. So lastly, how can we help you? You know, I mentioned how the technology is continuing to evolve and improve, and we're on top of that. And so we know you know, which technologies best map into what you're trying to do. And there are a number of high quality options available. There's some of them listed here that we work with and know very, very well. But as you start this journey, it can seem a little overwhelming in terms of how do I, you know, every client I work with in the consulting practice, AI comes into the conversation. And in most cases, this is what they mean by AI when you talk to them about that. And all the options that are out there. And I would need 20 more slides probably in this deck to list them all. It could be very overwhelming. And we can help you in a couple of ways to do this. And, you know, this will be my last little across proof of value, just so you can experience the power of the data and the insights that are available. And we do that all the time for clients, because they're like, okay, I'm not sure if this is the right thing for us. I'm not sure I'm not sure what it's even going to deliver to us. And so we can conduct a proof of value to show you what you can expect to receive. And then also we can help you find the right technology that it's going to be aligned to your business requirements and your objectives. And we can conduct an evaluation on a supplier neutral basis, so that you're getting the best technology that aligns to what you're trying to achieve. And we do those engagements all the time with clients. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions, and we've just got a few minutes left. If anybody has any questions, and we'll go from there. So I'll pause. And if you have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat, or you can, it's probably the best way to do it. Well, if there aren't any questions, this is how you can get in touch with us. I really, yeah, so Scott Eastman asked if we could speak to a win. We've worked with, we've worked with several clients that have used this technology. I don't want to speak to a specific win that we've worked with, but we've worked with this, we have several clients that are working with this technology today. And that we'd be happy. And if you have more questions, this has obviously been a pretty high level overview. If you have more questions, there are more detailed questions, don't hesitate to reach out to Dan or myself. We'd be happy to get on a call with you and kind of go through your specific questions. So, Kylie, maybe you can, the next question came out, how can you access this information? Kylie, can you kind of speak to how we share it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the webinar recording will be published on our YouTube later on today. So keep an eye out there. It will also be on our website for easy access as well. So that's two areas where you can go and view the webinar after.
So I do have a question. Is this useful for a very small business? I would say, yes, potentially. If it really, we'd probably want to talk through what you're looking to achieve from it. But I think it can be useful if used in the right way. So, I think there are applications that would be very successful, depending on what you're doing today. But yes, so yes. Okay, well, if there are no other questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we'll be happy to connect and discuss things in greater detail. And I really appreciate you coming today, and don't forget about those upcoming webinars in the next few weeks. So thank you very much, and have a great day.